The Lakers are barely holding on right now, Justin. How are we feeling right now?
I'm a little nervous. I'm biting my nails right now, Saul. There's a couple minutes left in the game, and I got my eyes on this TV right here, constantly watching the game. But I wouldn't miss this podcast for the world. I know you said, like, hey, just hop on whenever the game is over with. But I wouldn't miss this podcast for the world, Saul, because we have a huge announcement coming your way. Should I tell them, or should we let our guest tell it?
Man, we should let our guests come on, and then we can share the love both ways, man. Don't you know how this works?
Absolutely. Let's get to
selfish. It's no wonder you don't have a girlfriend.
Your fans just might turn into all fans. Be cool, it's just a part of this program. Spit your best 16 if you must. You not whack, you just sound whack rapping after us, yo. Your fans just might turn into all fans. Be cool, it's just part of the program. Spit your best 16 if you must. You're not whack, you just sound whack rapping after us. For real.
Well, you might have just... My man Justin is gone. I didn't mean to usher you, man. I didn't mean to let it burn for you. I'm sorry. I didn't mean for that to happen. It just came out. Sometimes, I don't know. You just bring the worst out of me sometimes, Justin.
Let it burn. Let it burn. Ooh,
just let it burn. All right, man. Well, if you just paid attention at the end of that first introduction, our opening promo, if you will, you would have seen a small little logo at the bottom. And that logo is actually the reason why we have big news today. And for that, I'm going to bring on, I just want to preface this. There might be a little obnoxious Wyoming fandom coming up because we have a huge Josh Allen supporter in the house by the name of Ralph Amsden. Also, the lead guy at Arizona Varsity, doing a great job out there. And that's why we brought him on to announce a partnership between the two entities. And we couldn't be any more excited about it. What's up, Ralph? How are we doing?
Not a lot is up on my end. I want to say obnoxious is a big word for a Wyoming boy like me. I am but a humble farmer supporting the one good thing to come out of Wyoming. Now, I will say,
you
Wyoming
say farmer, and obviously you have some herbs growing in the back, and that's what we're going to call them, herbs.
Hey, I'm trying to. My takes are getting hotter. I'm growing some hot peppers. I'm just trying to fuse the two things, the two passions. Just keep bringing the heat. But I'm very excited. I'm on cloud nine. I don't care much about the Bills, but a Bills win is a Josh Allen win, so I'm feeling pretty good today.
There we go. I kind of squinted because he said cloud nine after talking about growing herbs. I was like, wait a second, Ralph.
Hey, that's what we call synergy. So we brought Ralph on today because, as I said, he is the lead guy over there at Arizona Varsity, and we have talked over the past really month and a half or so about doing a mutual partnership, and that is what we are announcing today. We are a part of the Arizona Varsity brand now, and we couldn't be more excited. And Ralph, I know you were excited about bringing us on. We were excited about partnering with you and your big team. So why don't you tell everybody a little bit about your team and what you guys are trying to do and why we are going to work together, essentially.
I'm trying to bring Anthony Davis, and to me, that's what this podcast is. This is the thing that's going to put us over the top. A few months back, I was thinking about whether, I think anybody who is a sports reporter or is in content creation goes through those ebbs and flows of like, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? What's the point behind it? Should I continue? And I got to a point where I was like, and the only way that I'm going to continue to put my energy into things like this is if I can just make cool stuff with my friends. And that's my only concern. And which is a very privileged concern, by the way. I mean, a lot of people are just working in this industry trying to feed their family, and good luck as a sports reporter. But I just want to make cool stuff with my friends, and so I thought to myself, what's a way to do it? And is it even possible? And so I reached out to a bunch of people that I know and said, hey, what would happen if I broke up Arizona Varsity, my company, gave everybody an ownership stake, and we just made cool stuff together? No deadlines, no gamers, no box scores, nothing like that. Just your time is the most important thing in the world. Why don't you spend it making what you want to make? And if we can make stuff together, let's do it. And we got the ball rolling on that right before the pandemic hit, and there's no sports to talk about. So we've been slowly, brick by brick, building this thing up, hoping that it would work when sports came along. And at the same time, I've watched what you guys have made. The Total BS podcast it's a staple for me. I'm subscribed on iTunes and I listen. I'm caught up every episode except for this last one, which I'm really, really excited about, just because people getting and losing money is the most interesting thing in the entire world to me. So, we're just in a situation where I look at what you're doing and who you are, and I just know it would make everything that we do that much better to have you on board. And the idea that you guys would even want to be on board was a pretty humbling, pretty cool thing. And I'm excited to make some really, really cool stuff together.
Well, Ralph, I'm going to say this. We are going to be in for the long haul because as we speak, the Total BS podcast and us are now 1-0 against the Lakers. That's what I'm talking about. Let's go, Heat. Let's go. And Justin is not a fan. The Heat have just beat the Lakers. I love that because it makes this series a little funner to watch, not this blowout BS that was going on. Let's see what happens in game 4, but that's neither here nor there. No, again, Justin and I have had many conversations about where this podcast was headed. We love the trajectory that we think we're on, and the people that we get to talk to, and and meeting your crew of people. They just, everybody's going down the same path, right? Create cool stuff, create content that people want to listen to, and partake in, and be involved with. And that's exactly why we wanted to jump on board. It is an Arizona-centric brand for the most part, but there are many different aspects of this that reach across different aisles and go to different places. And that's where we kind of feel like we fit in. So we couldn't be more excited about this partnership. And we thank you for reaching out to us to see how this would go, how this would line up. And I know Justin's excited and pumped up. I'm excited and pumped up. So let's do this thing, baby.
I could not be more excited, but I'm also extremely distracted by the fact that the Lakers managed to lose a game to the Heat. And I do have a question for you, Saul. Are you not worried that the more games that Jimmy Butler wins, the less chance we'll ever be able to rein in his ego? I feel like we're creating a monster, and I was rooting for the Heat too. I'm a big Goran Dragic guy, but now that Goran Dragic is out of this series and probably not coming back, every game that Jimmy Butler wins, I mean, that's that much more that he's going to take out on the next rookie that comes his way.
Yo, I'm a big Jimmy Butler fan.
Yeah.
Huge Jimmy. Any guy that is going to wake up the whole entire hotel in his room, working out, dribbling a basketball, sprinting up and down the floor, I'm a big fan of. That's hardcore basketball. Like, I want to win. I want to do this the right way. I love it. I love everything about Jimmy Butler. So I don't care what his ego looks like. I'm a big Dennis Rodman guy. Like, I love how crazy he was, how nuts he was on the court. I'm a big fan. Let's do this. Let's go all in. I know Justin feels differently.
I'm a big fan of Jimmy Butler, simply because of the whole spiel with Minnesota, where he took all the scrubs on that team, scrimmaged the starters, and they beat them in a scrimmage. Then he looks over at the owner or the general manager of the Timberwolves and says, "You bleeping need me." And then he ends up, going to the Sixers, and now he's with the Heat, and he's a big coffee guy. I'm a coffee connoisseur. I love coffee. He's got his own brand called Big Face Coffee. Every single game, going to the arena, always got a cup of Big Face coffee in his hand. So Jimmy Butler's a good guy, but with Dragic out, they have Kendrick Nunn, who's stepping in at that point guard spot. He actually finished second in Rookie of the Year voting, so he's no slouch. But man, today's game, they needed to win this game because Bam Adebayo was out, and now Bam's going to come back in. I gotta tell you guys, I'm a little scared. I really thought tonight was going to be the haymaker and kind of like the nail in the coffin, but no, this series ain't over just yet.
Yeah. Well, Ralph, again, we just wanted to thank you again for trying to make this happen and for us to put this together. Justin, I know you have a few words about that.
No, and I love this partnership because, Ralph, I have the utmost respect for you. As soon as I became a professional journalist, you were one of the guys in state that was just you were an example. You were someone that you could look at and say, that guy is such a hardworking person, but more importantly, he's a great person. I know you meet a lot of people in this industry where they're really good at what they do, and their egos are so up here where you're like, okay, buddy, like let's take a chill pill now. You're all about people, and you're all about high school student athletes, and you're just such a great person. And when you came to us about this partnership, I was stoked. I really was. And also, more importantly, the people that's going to be around this operation. Just Chili is a guy that's just so awesome. We have Sandy Charles as well, Cody Cameron. I mean, and other people. What do you think about just the overall group of people that's going to make this successful?
Well, two things. One, you're in, so you don't got to say nice stuff anymore. Two, I'm glad we're recording this because I'm going to send it to my dad. I'm going to send it to him. I'm going to be like, see? I'm somebody.
Yeah, man. Did we just go Hallmark on this or what? Let's go.
No, it's just I got 4 kids running around the house. It's a pandemic. They haven't been to school, and it's wild to have somebody respect you to your face. I'm not used to this kind of thing, so this is kind of nice. But as far as that group of people, they're just people who like to make stuff, and some of them, if I'm being honest, some of them are victims of the industry. If you write for a newspaper, often your parent company's 2,000 miles away in Indianapolis or something like that, and when they want to make a budget cut, you're a name on a piece of paper, and it doesn't matter how much work you put in, doesn't matter how much love you've shown the community, doesn't matter how much honesty and integrity you've operated with, and the number of people you impact. A budget's a budget. And I wanted to be in a situation with those people, those good people, not just with a heart for the community, but for each other, and who are just good at what they do and are fun. And the fact that, pretty much everybody I've talked to said yes, that blew my mind, because then it was like, oh, then we actually have to do this. Like, if they're gonna jump in, we actually have to do something. We have people who have been 30-year newspaper editors. We have people who worked in the NBA. We have people who worked for the MLB. We have people who played the game at a very high level, or who came from television, or who came from radio. And with all that, with you two coming in, I'm still like super blown away by what you do, and a little bit intimidated by your skill sets. And I'm excited to see what we can do and what we can make. It's just an awesome group of people, and it's going to be that much better now that the Total BS podcast is part of it.
We're all going to be like a fine wine. I got to say that, even when we look at our show from the beginning, the very first couple episodes to where we are now, I'm like, oh, wow, we've gotten better. That's cool. You know what I mean? And this is the same thing, it's just going to grow, and it's just going to grow more and more and more. And, I think we're on a perfect path. And I'm so happy that we get to do it with you. Thank you so much for coming on today, Ralph. Best of luck. Obviously, we'll be in touch. And and those of you out there that are watching this podcast or listening to the podcast on Monday morning, one of the things that we will do, we will bring on a guest every now and then from the Arizona Varsity squad. There's many other podcasts in the network, and we'll announce those as we go along this week and in the short-term future, so you understand what's going on. And if you want to listen to those, we would absolutely love it. So thanks, Ralph. We appreciate it, and we're so excited for this to happen.
What I'm excited for is that when I get off here, I get to log back on and listen to you talk about the greatest quarterback in the history of the NFL.
That is
in the history of the NFL.
That is actually our number one list of things to talk about with our guest that's coming up. So yeah. I know you're going to be excited about that.
What a privilege for you guys. What a privilege.
All right, before you go, Ralph, what's the Wyoming like? Is the Wildcats have this? You guys have like the I don't know what.
I gotta be honest. Cowboys? They say
you guys just go yeehaw or something, or they
say letter buck.
Letter buck, and I've never been completely comfortable with it. To be honest, so I just do the go YO.
And we don't have that much to be proud of as far as like the pantheon of college football in general. So, I mean, this has been a lot of fun. Something like 38 touchdowns, 9 interceptions over the last 16 games. This dude's for real.
Pretty crazy. Josh Allen. All right, that's Ralph Amsden. You got something to say, Justin?
No, I was going to say one thing that I've learned about Wyoming football fans over this past year is when they were down in Arizona for the bowl game, those guys can drink. I remember talking to one of my good friends who's the bowl chairman, Ollie Farhang, and he like made sure there was enough beer for all Wyoming fans because they could definitely hold it down.
You want to know why? You want to know
that?
why they can drink like that? Because you're at 7,200 feet and the wind is always blowing about 40 miles an hour. And if you don't want to feel that sting on your face, you got to numb up a little bit.
There it is.
It's just the
Facts.
truth.
Wyoming Facts right there by Ralph Amsden. All right, Ralph. Thanks so much, bud.
Love y'all.
Thank
All
you.
right. All right, Ralph Amsden again. Our partnership with Arizona Varsity. We're so excited about it. Justin, I know you and I have talked so many times at length about where we were going to go, what we were going to do. This came along. It seemed like it was a pretty good fit, and I think it will be.
This is the next step for our podcast. You know, we're trying to get better and grow our brand, and this next step is perfect for us because it's with a great group of people, Ralph included. You know, he's the face of this, and he's an incredible person. He's so kind-hearted and so generous. I love the fact that we get to work with a guy like Ralph, and he's all about community and all about his people. And I know as we go into this partnership, he's always going to have our best interest in mind. And this is big time for our podcast. So I'm excited.
For sure. So, I mean, with that being said, we're still waiting for our guests to show up for this next segment. But, man, so much happened in the last 10 minutes. So we'll go ahead and recap. The Lakers lose. They dropped their series 2-1. And so the Miami Heat have now evened up or have pulled within one game of said Lakers. So, Justin, I know you're a Lakers fan, but objectively speaking, why did this happen? And what do you expect to happen in Game 4?
I was really worried about how they would come out in this game because they're up 2-0 in the series. Word got out that Goran Dragic and Bam Adebayo would be out for Game 3. So I thought, okay, this is a golden opportunity. The Heat are wounded right now. Bam Adebayo is probably going to come back next game. Goran Dragic, he's most likely going to be out for the series. But with those two guys down, especially Goran Dragic, how he's played in the bubble, Bam Adebayo being a finalist for most improved player, with those two guys out, Jimmy Butler had to do some special things tonight in order for the Heat to get this win, and he did. He came out, I believe he finished with 34 points, if 36. I'm not mistaken, 36 points. He played unbelievable, and I was worried that, and excuse my language, Lakers were back on their bullshit. They do this every single series where they look so dominant and you think, okay, they're going to run away with the series, and then they come out very flat. This game tonight had the game against the Nuggets, the only time they lost to the Nuggets in the series. This was an identical game. The Heat went up big. The Lakers clawed and fought back, but it was the other team that pulled away. And I was really disappointed in how Anthony Davis came out and played. You know, when you're a star like Anthony Davis, when you're arguably a top 5 player in the NBA, there is no business that Danny Green should have more shot attempts than you in the third quarter. You've already played a first half, and now you're halfway done through the third quarter, and Danny Green had more shot attempts than you. That should not be the case. Anthony Davis should have played a little bit more aggressive, and you know, it was just one of those games, and the Lakers weren't on brand tonight.
Justin, I think I can speak on your behalf because we've seen this story before where a big time power forward just falls apart or doesn't demand the ball late in the game when the game's on the line and it costs your team a victory. Of course, I'm speaking from our Arizona time and watching Lauri Markkanen. Regardless, we knew Jimmy Butler was going to have a Jimmy Buckets game. We knew that was going to happen at least once in this series. It happened tonight. Let's see if he carries it forward. And with that being said, we have our own version of Jimmy Buckets because he's a superstar. I love this guy. He's he's the host of the Rundown on Arizona Sports 98.7 locally. He is the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Luke Lapinski. What's going on, Luke?
What's going on, guys? That is quite the intro I got to live up to now, man.
Well, hey, you're trapped in the closet.
I am.
Just say
it's more of a hallway, but I can't get anywhere in here where there's not this is the only place in the house where there's no echo.
I just hear the piano in the background. And I pulled out my Beretta.
I tried to put up as many suits as I could for soundproof.
Oh my gosh. If there's an R. Kelly poster somewhere, I'm going to lose it.
There is not.
Well, Luke, again, thanks for joining us today. We've been looking forward to having you on for quite a while. And I think it's kind of apropos. I know we said we were probably going to start off with the NFL, but we can touch on the first championship to be given out during this, post-quarantine pandemic era, which was the Tampa Bay Lightning finally taking home the cup. And, what were your overall impressions of that series? Because Dallas is no slouch, and how the Lightning were able to rebound after game one and really take the series in hand.
Yeah, I mean, I think the bigger thing for me was just that the NHL was able to pull this off and to have a full tournament and everything, actually have an additional round and to do it with no positive tests for the entire thing. But also, I think a team like Tampa Bay winning the cup sort of legitimizes it. If it had been some team that had snuck in on a technicality because they had to have a certain number of teams, that would have had a mark next to it. But Tampa Bay, they didn't have the best record during the regular season, but they were right there. They had a historically great record last season and went out in the first round. And it was kind of cool because they came back and won it this year with almost the exact same team that went out in the first round last year, which you don't typically see. So, it was cool. I'm always a fan of the warm weather teams winning the Stanley Cup, just because I know we get so much flack for having hockey in Arizona from some of our friends north of the border. So that was cool. But two really good teams that deserve to be there.
Do you think the bubble is going to last into next season for both the NBA and NHL?
I don't know how it could. I think there's a possibility with maybe with either that they may start in the bubble for like a couple weeks, knowing that, if they're starting in January 1st, let's say, that they feel confident that by February 1st, they can be back in their arenas with fans. But I don't think you can ask these guys to do it much longer than that.
Interesting. Okay. Justin, you still there? Are you in the zone or?
Oh, I'm right here. Sorry. It was a little, it cut off just for a little bit, but I am here and I am well. Somebody said on Twitter, somebody's got to do a wellness check on me after the Chargers and Lakers lost today.
I thought you saw your first pair of boobs or something and you just squared off. I was like, where did this guy go?
All right. No, but Luke, going into next year, the Lightning took care of business this season. Who do you think is a favorite to win the Stanley Cup next year?
Colorado. Tampa Bay, I think, is definitely right there again. I thought this year at the start of the year, I thought it'd be Tampa Bay and Vegas ended up coming up short. But I think Colorado has a good enough team that if their roster was the same as it is right now, they could go to the Cup next year. I think they're going to add one or maybe even two big pieces. So I haven't seen the odds yet for next year, but I have to think they're going to be one of the favorites. Taking nothing away from Tampa. I think Tampa will probably will be the favorite, but I think Colorado's already good and they're going to get better.
Well, speaking of Colorado and really north of Colorado, we have one Mr. Josh Allen and in the NFL, obviously. Are you a believer in Josh Allen yet?
I am. Yeah. Oh yeah,
yes.
Absolutely. Yeah. I don't know how you can't be. They're 4-0. This is not one of those teams that's winning games 17-13. And Josh Allen he's throwing 2 interceptions and no touchdowns, but they're getting by because he makes a play late. He's at the center of it. I expected this team to be winning with their defense, and I thought he'd be good. He's getting better, which is what you're supposed to do. And all of a sudden, that draft class now of quarterbacks looks like Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson and nobody else.
Yeah, for real.
How has Josh Allen progressed from rookie season until now? Because after his first year, I wasn't a believer in Josh Allen whatsoever. Now, through the first few games of this year, I'm a firm believer. And I even tweeted earlier, this year has been so bizarre. I wouldn't even be surprised if the Buffalo Bills are somehow in the Super Bowl. And Josh Allen's been a big part of that.
Yeah, I mean, they've put a good team around him, and they have taken pressure off of him, at least, I would say last year with that defense. And the defense is still good, obviously. But, this is the way it's supposed to be, right? Your quarterback is supposed to have some time to develop and get better. And we always knew he had the size and the arm strength. But, you make that transition from Wyoming to the NFL, you don't necessarily know how that's going to go. And he's gotten progressively better each season. But it helps, they bring in a guy like Stephon Diggs. They give him weapons to work with, and it goes both ways, right? If they bring him in some weapons, he's got to make it work, and he's been doing that. So yeah, I'm 100% in. Like I'm not picking the Bills to win the Super Bowl, but I believe in that team, and it starts with him.
Speaking of not very good, the NFC East is a train wreck.
NFC least.
The Washington Redskins, if the playoffs were to start today, would be the number one seed or not the number one seed, but they would be one of the top 4 seeds top 3 seeds, and they would have a first round home game, which is,
and they're 1-3.
They're 1-3. Just your overall impression. I mean, the Redskins and the Cowboys are both 1-3, and the other 2 teams are 0-4. So,
well, I obviously don't have a TV in this like half closet, half hallway I'm in right now, but if Philadelphia wins tonight, it's their first win of the season, and it jumps them all the way into first place because they'd be 1-2-1. So that tells you all you need to know about that division. I saw the stat coming into this weekend. The NFC West was plus 100 in point differential. The NFC East was minus 97 in point differential.
God.
And that was coming into this weekend, and I'm pretty sure they've all lost again, except maybe Philadelphia. So that's got to be one of the worst divisions I've ever seen in any sport. Honestly, if Dallas wins 6 games, they're probably going to win the division.
Which is kind of weird though, because I had high hopes for Dallas. They got one of the top offensive lines in football.
Everybody has high hopes for Dallas every single year.
But see, I hate the Cowboys, and I was willing to admit, hey, Cowboys might actually have a decent squad this year. They got Amari Cooper, Gallup. They did well in the draft getting CeeDee Lamb. The defense was going to be looking all right, and now, man, the Cowboys are lucky to even have 1 win, and that 1 win came because the Atlanta Falcons did another complete choke job. I just don't get what's been wrong with the Cowboys this year.
Yeah, I'm with you. I don't like the Cowboys. I definitely thought that they were going to be a lot better this year. They have the offense. I mean, there was people at the start of the season, and this was obviously crazy, but there was people at the start of the season saying that offense is basically the NFC version of like Kansas City light. And look, you add CeeDee Lamb, he's been good. And then the offense was already good before you got him. I just didn't realize how bad their defense was. And it's obviously atrocious.
Yeah, I mean, anytime the Browns put up a good 40 spot on you, you should just hang it up for the rest of the season.
31 in the first half.
Man, it was ridiculous. And ODB was like, whoa, oh yeah, I forgot. I'm pretty good. And I forgot because, the Cowboys reminded me how good I really am because I did this to them all the time in the NFC East. So that was kind of funny to see. Also, just a side note, why do Lamar Jackson and Patrick Mahomes have less commercials than Baker Mayfield?
And that is a great question. And I was actually just talking to somebody about that yesterday. Baker Mayfield has more commercials, I feel like, than any athlete in professional sports. And he hasn't done anything. I mean, look, I'm not a Baker Mayfield hater like a lot of people are, but he does not deserve the spotlight that he's getting, specifically over Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson. But really, I mean, you name anybody, they're not getting the spotlight that he's getting.
Is Lamar Jackson in any commercials?
I haven't seen him in any. Except for the Madden commercial.
Because I was watching football today, and I see like Tostitos commercial or some salsa commercial, and Marshawn Lynch, retired from the NFL, is doing commercials. Then it got me thinking, I don't think I've ever seen Lamar Jackson do a commercial.
Patrick Mahomes is in State Farm. So is Aaron Rodgers. So is Chris Paul. But like outside of that, it's always Baker Mayfield. Every other commercial, Baker Mayfield. We got to cover the seats. Baker Mayfield. Oh, somebody opened the gate. Baker Mayfield. Like, oh my gosh, I'm so sick of this guy. And I don't even understand why I'm seeing him so many times. Kyler Murray is the exact same person, except maybe 3 inches shorter, and he has no commercials. And he's done the same thing, if not more, which is crazy.
Give Kyler another year. I bet he gets some.
I don't blame Baker, though. Hey, if they're going to keep giving the guy opportunities to cash in those checks, I don't blame Baker Mayfield at all. I blame the companies. Give Lamar Jackson a commercial.
Don't hate the player, hate the game.
Exactly.
I appreciate that for sure. Hey, let's move on to the NBA. Obviously we were just talking before you came on, Luke, about Jimmy Butler coming through for the Miami Heat, cutting the series to 2-1. Do you think this series goes past 5 games?
I don't. And let me preface it by saying I don't think Miami has a realistic shot of winning the series. But I mean, Jimmy Butler has been so impressive. He's been impressive throughout his career, but he's been so impressive since they got to the bubble that if I would pick the Lakers in 5, but it wouldn't shock me if he can push it to 6 single-handedly. But they're so beat up, and LA is just so much better. And look, man, I mean, this is LeBron's chance to get his 4th ring. He knows it. He's had 4.5 months of rest before the bubble, which he never has in his career. I mean, he's been playing basketball seemingly every day, whether it's making it to the NBA Finals or playing for the U.S. Olympic team or whatever. He's rested and he's motivated. There's no way the Lakers aren't winning the series.
The first couple games, Anthony Davis looked like he was going to be the guy that took home Finals MVP, but tonight took a step back. I mean, he had a better second half, but really came out flat in the first half. If you were to predict who would be Finals MVP, who are you going to give it to?
Oh my God! Why are we even talking about that?
Yeah, I mean,
we already
feel
know
like
who it's going to be.
I feel like this is a cheap answer, but I'm not going to go against LeBron.
I mean, come on now.
It's got to be LeBron. But I do think Anthony Davis is the perfect complement to his game. Like, I mean, it sounds silly to say because he's a top 10 player in the NBA, certainly, but you could take some of those other top 10 players, and I don't think they complement LeBron as well as Anthony Davis does.
Mm-hmm. I'm curious, as a guy who's seen the Lakers from the outside, because you're not a Lakers fan, I'm assuming, correct?
No.
Okay. Are you a Suns fan then?
Yes.
Okay. So looking at
I'm an impartial member of the media. Sorry, that is my
Okay. So you follow the Suns. Looking on the outside in a year ago when they made that trade for Anthony Davis, were you a firm believer that they would get to this point, or were you kind of worried that they got rid of all the young talent and gave up a lot for Anthony Davis?
No, I thought they'd get here for sure.
Okay.
100%. The second, because Anthony Davis, like I said, I mean, you're talking about adding a top 10 player to LeBron. And so, and you know, I got to be honest, in the NBA, I actually am fairly neutral. I'm not a Lakers fan. I don't like the Lakers, so I guess not totally neutral, but I follow players more than teams in the NBA. I mean, I follow the Suns because I'm here. So I probably have a pretty relatively unbiased view on this. And the second they got Anthony Davis, I thought, if they just have anything else, they're going to win a title within the next 3 years. I was actually kind of surprised they didn't go. I mean, I guess they couldn't have done it last year, but I was surprised they didn't run away with the regular season this year.
There's a couple of things that are always in play in my mind when it comes to LeBron. First, it seems like no matter what, he never gets the credit that he deserves. Number one, I'm going to say that full out. And I preface that because I'm going to say what I'm about to say. You know, his path to the NBA Finals this year and even the NBA Finals opponent hasn't been as hard as some people think it could have been, right? But that's also a product of how easy the Lakers have disposed of these teams and how well they've played, but also the lack of, or not the lack, but the lack of performance by other teams to get to those tough games, like the Clippers falling apart and not showing up, the Rockets falling apart and stuff like that. So when you look at LeBron, is it going to be more of devastation if he doesn't win this NBA Finals somehow and loses, and that'll be like the black X on his career? Ooh. Or will it be more of, well, it was an easy path to the finals if he wins it?
I mean, I think there's going to be people. You're right. LeBron, in a weird way, doesn't get the credit he deserves because I think he's somewhere in that weird spot of people are kind of sick of how good he is, or you know, you have the Jordan fans that are going to, no matter what LeBron does, he's never going to be as good as Jordan, and so they don't like.
Well, LeBron. Yeah, because Jordan never jumped ship. That's why.
This guy.
Oh yeah, that's me. That's me right here. That's me right here. Never in 100 years will LeBron ever top Jordan. Keep going.
But that's the thing. I mean, LeBron isn't being compared to his peers. He's always being compared to Jordan. So he's being compared to the greatest of all time. So that's why I think he gets that sort of perceived hate or maybe just not as much credit or adulation as you would think for what he's accomplished. I just don't see a way they lose. And I know people are going to look and say, okay, well, they didn't have to play the Clippers and they had, you know, this path and it was in a bubble, so they didn't have to travel. I actually think the bubble makes it tougher. You know, if you are a good team that wins, I think for you to be mentally dialed in, especially with everything that's been going on. I mean, LeBron was one of the guys reportedly that was willing to leave the bubble and I mean, to leave and just not finish the rest of the season with everything. So I think to have that mental strength to stay locked in at this point, I think if anything, it makes it more impressive.
I would disagree with you to a degree just because of the fact that I think the bubble. Now, I've obviously playing basketball my entire life until my knees gave out pretty much, or going to AAU tournaments or, other tournaments where kids are essentially staying in the gym 24/7. It feels like, they never leave for the whole weekend. They stay in the gym and it's just like that kind of environment. I think the only hindrance has been like not being able to see your family for, a couple months, that's been hard, but now those family members have joined them in the bubble and stuff like that. I think if you're just sitting there in the bubble, living and breathing it, I actually think it's a little less stressful because that's the only thing you got to worry about. You ain't got to worry about stuff going back home. You don't have the side distractions of getting tickets or anything like that for people. Like it's just, you're just in the gym, you're locked in, you get to go home, which is Disney. I mean, come on, it's Disney. I get what Justin's about to say, but there's also no home court advantage either, so it's just a neutral setting. That is truly where the best of the best are going to play. And so all things being equal, I think it's okay. I don't think it's that tough.
No, I was going to say, Saul, I think out of all people that's happy about the bubble and LeBron not being home is definitely Bronny James with his antics on social media, but go ahead, Luke.
I don't know how to follow that up. No, I mean, I think that there's certainly something to that. And this is partially why I don't think they will go to a bubble to start next year is you're right. It's all basketball all the time. And that as an athlete is more acceptable when you are a week away from winning the NBA title or, even a month and a half ago, LeBron knew his team was going to be going deep. And if you're in there for the playoffs, then as long as you're in there, you have a chance to win. If you start next season in a bubble, what are you telling the guys on Cleveland? They know they're just there to play out other people's schedules and they're just sitting around in a bubble waiting for that. It's different when the trophy's right there and you're only in there as long as you're competing for it.
For sure.
But I love this environment, the bubble environment, no home court advantage. I like it a lot, but for some reason, like the NBA finals, especially this year, it doesn't have the buzz that a normal finals has, especially I'm kind of surprised because it's the Lakers. We've heard what David Stern said a while back. His ideal NBA Finals matchup is the Lakers versus the Lakers. Well, now the marquee team is in the NBA Finals, and it seems like more people were interested in watching the 49ers Eagles rather than the NBA Finals game tonight.
It's because the concept of the bubble was very interesting and intriguing at first, and I think Luke, you could probably agree to that. Is especially early on, you're like, oh, how's this going to look? How's this going to feel? How's this all going to play out? How are teams going to get seeded? Cool. Then it just kind of felt like it kind of plateaued a little bit, and I don't know about you, but I don't see a discernible difference between the NBA Finals and the Western Conference Finals or the Eastern Conference Finals and the division. Like it doesn't feel any different. I mean, they can paint the end boards all they want, any color. It still doesn't feel like the NBA Finals. The fans, this is where I think the fans come into play. Think about the biggest moments in a sports. Fans are involved 1,000%. You go back to even Kawhi hitting the jump shot against Philadelphia and how crazy that just one scene was. You're missing those elements of the playoffs and that home court advantage or disadvantage for the other teams and for them to overcome those kind of things. And I think that's what's affected the NBA the most, whereas the NFL, they haven't quite hit that. But best believe the Super Bowl, I don't know if it's going to be as hype as it was last year because there aren't going to be any fans, or if there is, I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think, each sport you notice the fans more or less. And for me with hockey, I mean, especially in the playoffs, you can hear a goal almost before the announcer calls it because of the fans reacting or the fans going completely silent. If it's the road team that scores. The NBA visually, I mean, the fans are right there. You see them more than you see fans in any other sport because they are right there next to the court. And so, yeah, I think there is something to that. I think the NBA has done a really good job of creating an environment, but it does feel like the opening round of the bubble, except it's the NBA Finals. And I can only imagine what it feels like to play for it, especially a guy like LeBron that's already won a title before. He's won multiple titles. He's probably just like, this is weird. We're just playing basketball in a gym and I'm going to get a ring after we win this. But I would say the other thing that, that maybe is taking away from it a little bit is you're not usually playing the NBA Finals up against Sunday Night Football and the MLB playoffs. You know what I mean? Like you have so much stuff going on right now.
Yeah, it is the only show in town at that point. Usually it's in June, midway through June, and there is nothing else going on unless you're a baseball fan. And we'll get to that here right now. Baseball started their playoffs, and the wild card thing, I don't know about you guys, but I'm kind of a fan. I like the extended playoff. I like the 2 out of 3 series. More importantly, I hate the 1-game playoff. I hate the idea that you're going to play 162 damn games, and then you got to play one more to get into that final 4 of your side. Like I didn't like it, and the fact that they expanded it, I hope they keep it going. Luke, what has been your overall impression of that format?
I got to say, when they initially announced that they were going to do it, I had 2 reactions, both of which were wrong. My first was, well, the Diamondbacks are definitely in if they're going to have this many teams. And that was not right. But the other one was, I'm not sure I like this because it's going to cheapen the regular season. I love it. And maybe it only works because it was a 60-game regular season. I don't know if you can play 162 games knowing that 16 out of 30 teams make the playoffs. I don't know, but last week was awesome. That was the most into baseball I've been in a long, long time. And because, what was it, Wednesday? You had 8 consecutive playoff games going back to back to back, all the way through 8 of them. That sounds crazy. And there's some good talent around the league. That way you get, your new stars potentially like Fernando Tatis Jr. That's something that sports fans, they hear about him, but if they're watching the Padres or if they're watching the playoffs, usually they're not seeing the Padres. So just the way it's set up this year, it's been great. I wouldn't be nearly as opposed to them doing it again next year.
I love that because of that answer alone, the star power. And that is something that baseball desperately needs to showcase more. I know Trevor Bauer because he used to play for the D-backs and he got traded. And so, you kind of follow his career just to see where it projects. His performance might have been the best performance of any pitcher in the playoffs so far. He was outstanding. And if you've never seen Trevor Bauer, except in social media when he's going off on the commissioner, like you just realize this dude can walk the walk and talk the talk, which is phenomenal. You know what I mean? So, Justin's a Dodgers fan, so he's obviously still giddy about his Dodgers staying in it. I just hope the Padres can pull it out. We'll see. But Fernando Tatis is my favorite player in baseball right now because I just love the passion. I love the power. Justin, what about you?
I love it. And, going back to the whole format with the 3 games rather than just the 1, I mean, that worked out for the Padres, right? Because they lost the first game and then won the next 2 to advance and go play the Dodgers, which, by the way, I kind of feel bad for Padres fans because I don't know if you saw like the huge rally outside.
The coronavirus trail. Yeah, go ahead.
All because they won a wild card series. Yes, and I'm like, okay, you're risking COVID for a team that just won the wild card round. It couldn't be me, but I'm excited for this series. Like you said, star power. Manny Machado being a former Dodger himself, Fernando Tatis has proven that he's one of the most exciting players in baseball. So, Luke, who do you got in this series?
I will say this is, I think, the only team that can beat the Dodgers, but they need either Dinelson Lamet or Mike Clevenger. They probably need both, and I still don't know if either one of them are pitching. I saw that they said Mike Clevenger might be able to pitch, but I don't think San Diego's afraid of the Dodgers. They beat them 4 out of 10 times this year. Tatis is crazy. I mean, he's one of the few players where you're like, hey, come over here and watch this guy. You've never seen him play before. He's going to get a hit every time, it feels like, when you watch. And when he gets outs, his outs are spectacular. So this is about the only team I think could take the Dodgers out. I mean, I picked the Dodgers to win at the start of the playoffs and season. I'm not alone. I think about 95% of baseball fans did that. I haven't seen anything to make me think they're going to lose, but if somebody's going to take them out, I think it's San Diego.
Not so fast. There is one team in these playoffs that has never lost a playoff series.
That's
the
true.
Miami Marlins have never lost a playoff series. I think they would have something to say about that if they can get past the Braves. But I digress.
They got the pitching. They've got good pitching.
Well, they have all the prospects in the world.
What about on the AL side?
The AL side, as much as I hate to say this, I think people just completely wrote the Astros off, and they've got decent pitching now behind Greinke. So,
hey, if there's anything that's going to make baseball more popular, it is another Astros-Dodgers World Series. Give it to me. Give it to me all night long. Pump it into my veins. I want to see that.
I want to see Joe Kelly.
Joe Kelly.
Yes. Joe Kelly
yes.
against the Astros. That'd be awesome.
Absolutely. Well, so you said that you think the Dodgers are going to take it all. That's your pick.
I do. Yeah.
All right.
I mean, they would have to self-destruct. And I know Clayton Kershaw doesn't have a good record in the playoffs, but I also think if you go back and look at that, it's a lot of that is either he's not getting run support or some of those were fluky play. I mean, some of it is his fault. I'm not absolving him completely, but I think people just like to throw out that narrative that Clayton Kershaw can't pitch in the playoffs. He pitched pretty well in that first game that he threw against Milwaukee, and I'm guessing he's going to pitch pretty well the rest of the way.
Absolutely. That's Luke Lapinski joining us from Arizona Sports. Luke, my man, thanks for coming on today, man.
Thank you, Luke.
Yeah, this was fun. Thanks for having me, guys.
All right,
Absolutely.
take care. All right, Luke Lapinski joining us from Arizona Sports. Again, this dude knows like everything. Every time I have a conversation with him, I never leave thinking, "Oh man, he doesn't know what the hell he's talking about." which is good, right? There's a lot of other guys out there that you're like, what the hell? You have no idea. Like you just have no clue. But Luke, I can go to him 24/7. I know I'm always going to get a solid answer. I always know I'm going to get great perspective. He does so much good work out here with the Cardinals and the Coyotes and the Suns. And I mean, he just covers it all. The rundown on 98.7. If you can't check it out on the radio, check out the podcast because they always upload that as well. So special thanks to him. But as we speak, you know how it goes every week. And Justin, it's time for the one and only. Yeah!
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Baby. All right. Well, I'm going to start it off because you have a Don't Be That Guy, and you also have a Tell Me Something Good. So I'm going to go ahead and get this party started. Fear. It starts somewhere for all of us, right? Either you're afraid of clowns because you went to a birthday party and a clown cornered you and you thought, oh my gosh, I'm going to die. Or, maybe a spider stung or bit you or, something crazy, right? Justin, what are you afraid of?
Oh, man. What am I afraid of? Snakes.
I'm afraid.
Snakes.
I'm afraid I'm going to be buried alive.
Oh.
Yeah, like no.
Oh, I just got claustrophobic thinking about that.
Yeah,
see, my fear is like I'm gonna use the bathroom, and next thing you know, I just feel something come up, and it's like snakes on a plane just coming out of the toilet and just grabbing you. That's my biggest fear.
That's only in Texas because they have those water snakes. Just so you know.
Yeah.
But this unfortunately was the beginning of some kid's fear out there. Birds are a real fear.
That kid had something that bird really wanted, or that bird just hated that kid.
Oh man, he had a seed-scented shirt. Is what it was.
Funny story about birds, Saul. So, we were out there on the golf course this past weekend. I almost passed out on the course because it was so damn hot in Phoenix.
My man almost died out there, man.
I was like, yeah, y'all just play a few holes. I'll be back soon with the towel over my head. I was worried. But, we were on like the fourth or the fifth hole, and there was some water next to us. And when my brother teed off, I said, hey, man, watch out for that goose right there. And he kind of like turned his neck, was like, dude, don't be saying that shit, man. Because when my brother was about 4 years old, this was when my family was still in California. My grandma took my brother to a park to feed the ducks. And he had a whole loaf of bread, was just feeding the ducks. And then there was this giant goose that just came over and it like attacked my brother because the goose wanted the bread. It was so bad that my grandma had to come over and like hit the goose with her purse and had to get the goose away. And ever since that moment, my brother has just been terrified of geese.
You know what I'm gonna do next time we go golf, right? I'm gonna get a goose whistle. You should have told me that, bud.
Grow man afraid of geese. So great.
My god, geeses.
All right. So my Don't Be That Guy is this. It comes from a store clerk, right? And he has this phone, looks like a random smartphone, and he decides, you know what, I'm going to pull a prank on somebody. I'm going to leave it on a shelf, and I'm going to see if this person steals the phone. And this phone, he pushes a button and it zaps you. It like electrocutes you. Well, this person decided to, you know what, I'm going to steal this phone and I'm going to put it in my pocket.
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't have that video.
Oh,
It is somehow not playing right now.
okay.
So,
Well,
but yeah,
let
don't
me
steal.
let me explain it to you. This guy put the phone in his pocket, and the clerk kept zapping it, and you'd see the guy like freak out after every time. And the clerk was like, "Something wrong with your leg? Something wrong with your leg?" He's like, "Nah, my leg just kind of cramping up." And he kept doing it, and the guy just put the phone on the clerk's counter and said, "All right, you know what? I'm done. I'm not stealing anymore." So, moral of the story: don't steal.
Don't steal. Don't
Don't
steal.
steal.
What's the quote from Friday?
I steal. I don't kill.
I don't kill. That's right. That's right. And actually, so Justin, that is my error, and I apologize. But I do have a second one.
Oh, you're good. Oh,
I do have a second one. Folks, I understand how excited we can be to go back to a live sporting event. I understand how much it sucks to be stuck in the house. Like, trust me, I believe it is worst. It is just an awful experience to be here day after day after day. I'm living it. We're all living it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when you finally get admitted into a college football game, there is no need to just completely disregard all the rules, like fans from Georgia. There is not a mask to be seen except homeboy in the bottom left-hand corner wearing a mask. What is wrong with this country when we have this many people not giving a damn about anybody else? All it takes is one person in that crowd. Oh, actually, there's another guy in the middle of the crowd that does have a mask on. All it takes is one person in that crowd to have COVID, and you're going to look at thousands of people and no more games for anybody. Like, we have to be better than this, right?
Yeah.
So don't be that guy. Wear a mask. Have fun at your games if you get admitted to them. Socially distance. Be smart. Don't be an idiot.
Absolutely. And I just it frustrates me that we're at a point here where we're starting to get a little taste of normalcy. Fans are starting to get back into the stands, but our reckless behavior is going to get in the way of this. And we've gotten in the way of it this entire time, because back in March when this thing United States, we always thought, okay, well, we'll be good by summer. We'll be good by football season. Things will return to normal. But people refuse to follow orders put in place by health officials. And it's so mind-boggling to me that you just can't wear a damn mask. And I get it, being in the stands like that for a few hours wearing that mask, it's going to be a lot. If you want to lift it up maybe for, I don't know, 5 seconds, get a breath and then put it back, that's okay. But to go a whole game breathing on each other, cheering, yelling, where spit's coming out and you're all next to each other, don't be that guy, Georgia.
For sure. And you know what? Before we end this show, we always like to give you something good, something to uplift you, pick up your spirits before you wake up tomorrow on a Monday and say, "Damn, I wish I won the lottery." And so, Justin, the Atlanta Hawks dropped something pretty cool today.
Yes.
Yeah.
The Nike
jerseys.
So obviously, NBA is sponsored by Nike, and every team, every single season, they always do the city edition uniforms. Well, the Atlanta Hawks announced today that they will have Martin Luther King uniforms. For our fans watching right now, they can see the Trae Young photo, courtesy of the Atlanta Hawks. He's wearing the all-black uniforms with the gold trim. I think it's a good look for the Hawks, and it has MLK in big letters across the chest. And I think it's going to be one of the top selling jerseys next season, if not the top seller. But here's the kicker that I think is so great, and this is the reason why I picked it as Tell Me Something Good. Proceeds from the sale of the jerseys will go to support economic empowerment programs for Atlanta's community of color. That's awesome right there. That is the NBA putting their money where their mouth is. And they grabbed this issue because it has affected these players. Like for crying out loud, they almost ended the bubble because players were just so frustrated by everything that's going on in this country and the racism and just so much stuff going on that just really breaks your heart. The NBA and the Atlanta Hawks decided to go this route with the uniform, and the money from these jerseys is going to better the communities in a city like Atlanta. And I think it's so incredible that this team is doing it, and it's awesome, man.
Absolutely. No, I mean, I applaud every franchise, every player, every person out there that is able to step up and contribute to causes like that, causes that help out the community, causes that help out the disenfranchised or the unfortunate. I mean, my Tell Me Something Good is Mark Cuban. Point blank, Mark Cuban did something amazing this week where, Delonte West, former NBA player Delonte West, formerly of St. Joseph's University, it went down the wrong path. Drug use. He also had bipolar disorder, and he's been diagnosed with that. And he never got help for it, never got treatment for it. Well, somebody had seen Delonte West panhandling under some Dallas freeway, and somehow, some way, Mark Cuban was able to locate Delonte West, reunited him with his mother, and he's now been admitted into a rehab facility to get help. And that is just, I mean, say what you want about Mark Cuban and what you think he's all about. That right there is the epitome of what being an American is about. Is even though you might be fortunate to have tons of money or make brilliant decisions on business and this and that and the other, if you're living in a life where you are more fortunate than others, being able to help and humble yourself to get to a point where you can lend out your hand to your fellow man who might not have anything and get them to a place just to where they can survive and be normal again, is just tremendous. And that is an example that we should all follow. Absolutely, we should all follow. Yeah. Help out somebody that's in need. Justin and I have had so many conversations where one or the other was just feeling down or just needed this or just needed that. And we've always been there. We've been there for other people. We care so much about the people around us that, it's valuable to reach out and just say, hi, how you doing? How's everything going every now and then? Because you never know. If you see something crazy on social media, if you see something on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or whatever, and you have to think, reach out. Because you never know. You never know what those people are going through. And so Mark Cuban doing that, taking it on himself with the help of social media to really find Delonte West and get him the help that he so desperately needs. That's terrific. And it just warms my heart to see that.
Yeah. And that's the power of social media and getting Mark Cuban in a spot. And, Delonte West has played for a number of NBA teams. He played for the Cavs. He's played for the Celtics. He's also played for the Dallas Mavericks. And that's why Mark Cuban has a unique relationship with him. But the fact that, so many people had chances to go out and help and they didn't do that. It was Mark Cuban, the one who located him and got him the help. And I also have to applaud Delonte West because he became vulnerable with Mark Cuban. He could have easily said, no, thanks, I don't want the help, because his family tried to get Delonte West that help and he refused to get it. And that's why he was panhandling this entire time. But Mark Cuban was able to get Delonte West to commit to helping himself and bettering his life. And Mark Cuban is doing it all at his expense. That right there is a great person. Mark Cuban, not only just a great businessman, not only an involved owner with the Dallas Mavericks, but an all-around great person. And I'm really glad that you brought this on, Saul, because it definitely needed to be looked at, and I'm glad we're talking about it.
For sure. Justin, tell the people where they can find us.
Man, you know where to find us. You can check us out on YouTube. Subscribe to our YouTube account so you can watch the Sunday Night Showdown. You can also follow, and like us on Facebook. And we have reminders that are sent to you whenever we're about to go live on Facebook. So if you want to stay in touch with everything that we're doing, like us, follow us on Facebook. Also give us a like and follow on Twitter and Instagram, and be sure to subscribe to the Total BS podcast on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts.
Also, hey, subscribe to Arizona Varsity on all their platforms as well. Now that we are partners with them, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, I believe they're all over the place as well. They have many, many podcasts, and you will get to know some of those individuals as we go forward in the next couple weeks, months, years, maybe. I don't know. We'll see how this goes. But we're excited again with our partnership with them. We're excited for the future of what kind of content we're all going to be able to create and where this is all going to lead. Again, just a passionate group of individuals that are looking to make some cool content and tell some cool stories and talk a lot of BS. And with that being said, that is the end of the Total BS podcast. We love you. We appreciate you all for joining us. But until next time, peace.
Your fans just might turn into all fans. Be cool, it's just a part of this program. Spit your best 16 if you must. You not whack, you just sound whack rapping after us, yo. Your fans just might turn into all fans. Be cool, it's just part of the program. Spit your best 16 if you must. You're not